Alright, hello. This is log number 6 on July 23rd, 2018. So today was a pretty spicy day for me. It was fire outside, as you can imagine, in Florida weather. Extremely humid and no breeze. Yep. The humidity just clings to your face. It was red hot. I was red hot. I was burning up. It was awful. But anyway, I went to church like usual on a Sunday. But after that, I went home with my dad and we got to work. We went around and organized the MR2 parts that I have, like the engine and the transmission and all the other bins and parts and whatnot. I mean, I still have the seats. You can see them. They're sitting back there. But just engine-related things, right? We also went to the storage unit to grab some things that we needed, like the wooden dolly that I bought. And then we drove over to Francisco's, and that's when a real search began. I sort of misplaced some of the most crucial parts that we needed for today. I actually misplaced the transmission bolts. Yep. So that the transmission has these 4 bolts. They're about yay big. And let's just say I kind of threw them into a bag with a lot of other bolts, so we had a hard time identifying those bolts. But anyway, once we found them, we got to cooking, you know. So what we did was we unloaded everything off the minivan, like the engine and the transmission and the bins. So we laid them all out there, surgery style. And so we started with the engine, and we bolted on the flywheel that goes onto the crankshaft, which is just a big plate that goes onto the main rotating assembly. It's the main big spinning portion of the engine. And then from there, we aligned the clutch that goes right next to the flywheel, and that's what grabs onto the wheel, puts power out to the actual wheels that turn, and then we put the pressure plate on it. So I think I have a couple images of that, which you shall see. Then from there, from there we took the engine and transmission, and we took sort of the same approach that we took for Claude's engine, except our approach for Claude's engine, we kind of messed up a little bit, and this time we messed up as well. But our approach with Claude's engine was his transmission was still in the car, so we tried to just throw the engine in there, and there just really wasn't enough space, so we ended up pulling that one out and then kind of doing the same thing that we did today, which was we took the engine and we propped it sideways so it stood up like a tall pillar, and then we grabbed the transmission and picked it up and then like laid it flat on top of there, which, as you can imagine, is quite difficult to do because both those things are pretty big, heavy metal bits. And I mean, the MR2 engine is a lot heavier than the Civic stuff because it has an iron block, whereas the Civic is mostly aluminum, so it's a lot lighter. But the MR2 is just a heavy son of a gun, just a heavy engine. So anyway, we messed up kind of badly. We we put the transmission on there, and we kind of struggled because getting those two things to line up, if you ask anyone that's ever done it, it's just a pain, and it's just a pain to do it. But so once we had it all lined up and whatnot, we put the bolts in, and then we realized that there's a metal plate that goes in between those two things, and we forgot to put it on there. So we had to pick it up, pop it off, and then put the plate back on, and then do it again. So that really wasn't fun, and my dad was not happy, as you can imagine. So from there, we did it again. We got it all together, and that went well. The second time, because now we're experts at doing it, you know. I forgot to mention, but I'm kind of missing one of the transmission bolts, so the thing was held on by 3 bolts. So I guess in this case, 3 out of 4 is good enough. But anyway, once we had it all together, we put it on the dolly, and we made sure it was on the dolly well and nice and linear, so that it's not going in crooked or anything. And then we used the hoist that was already there, that we left there, to raise the rear of the MR2, like just the entire rear of the car, which is kind of different from most other cars. Most people will take the engine and then raise it and plop it in, but in this, it's actually 1,000 times easier. You raise the entire car, and we just slid the engine just sideways underneath the car, and from there, when we could see that everything was kind of lined up well, we just dropped the whole car onto the engine. And honestly, it's super easy, like, to do that. It just lines up really well. You don't have to worry about things kind of hitting each other, because the entire car is up there. You just got to make sure it's, you know, the heart is in the chamber, like, in the correct fashion, and that's it. So that went really well. We bolted it all up, and engine made it in, that was the toughest thing, honestly, because it's something I cannot do by myself. I cannot pick those things up alone. It's just not big enough yet. Gotta get some muscle. Yeah, so that went really well, and yeah, what did I do after that? Let me see. I mean, as you can imagine, afterwards, we picked up and whatnot, but I was really dirty after that. Yeah, the MR2 is not a clean thing. I hope it gets to a clean state. So we went home. I was dirty. I took a shower, and I remember now. I took a shower, and then I decided to play some Dota 2 and some CS. But I've sort of run into this sort of phenomenon of a kind here, where in both those games I'm sort of at the edge of hitting the next rank. And something that I've noticed in that bracket particularly is it's kind of difficult to get to that next rank, just because you have to become either really lucky or a really consistent player, which I guess I'm neither of those things. But I'll get these teams. I'll get one of two kind of teams. One where people actually communicate and we just dominate, just completely dominate the match in either of those games. Or I get a whole team of people that are more than likely not very intelligent, and they decide not to communicate at all, even though I attempt to, and they don't make any calls and choose their own heroes, and it just doesn't work out. So yeah, I've been sort of struggling with it, but at the same rate, I'm doing all right. I feel like I'll get there, and once I get to the next rank, I'll be more than satisfied for sure. So yeah, went all good for me. L Dog out.